هذه.
Sorry, I will just put this here. All right. Okay, I think we're ready now. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm so pleased that you made it here to the session of Women in Conservation. My name is Kinda Jabi. I'm the Communication Officer at IFAW for the MENA office based in Dubai. And I'm so very pleased to be here with you and our guests. Your reputation definitely precedes you, but we will give a brief introduction to our audience. We can start with Dr. Sheikha, if you could, Dr. Sheikha, if you can give us a word about the work that you do at the Environment Agency.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really honored and privileged to be with all of you today. And I would like to start with a happy Mother's Day to all of you.
Yes.
What a great day together and celebrate women more than celebrating it with the Mother Day. Dr. Sheikha Al-Dahri, the Secretary General of the Environment Agency, Abu Dhabi. I started my journey in 2000, and I'm still part of the agency. We are the largest and the biggest regulatory body in the Middle East. We are mandated to set policies, regulation, to ensure that we protect the environment for the future generation. It includes protected areas management, air quality, soil, fisheries, as well as sustainability and many, many other fields in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sheikha. And we have Ms. Hiba with us also from the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. Ms. Hiba, would you give a word?
Thank you very much, Kinda. First of all, let me say how pleased I am to be here. It's really an honor to be here at such a day. My name is Hiba Shahi. I have started my journey working in the environment in 2011. I work as the acting director of the biodiversity department. I have such a great team with 6 women and 2 men as well. What we do in the ministry, as you know, we are a federal government, yes. So we are the federal body that looks after the conservation of the environment. We work with all of our competent authorities to protect the environment. One of perhaps our main roles is to set the federal regulations and laws in the UAE and policies in the UAE, as well as work with our competent authorities in the studies that we need in order to enhance decision-making also in the UAE. We also work with other entities as well for educating people, for awareness as well as other roles with that. Again, thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you so much. We're honored. And we have with us Pat Awori from the Pan-African Conservation Network. Pat, hello. Would you like to give us a word about the kind of work that you do?
Thank you very much. As Kinda said, my name is Patricia Awori, and I'm from Kenya. This is my first time to come to the United Arab Emirates. Oh. And I'm very delighted that it should be because of women and discussing women in conservation. It's a very great honor for me to be here, to meet people like you, to hear about what it is that you do. In Kenya, I do very many things, but in relation to the subject we are talking about here, I spend a lot of time in the bush with local communities, and I suppose the short answer would be I build networks. I try to find things that we have in common and realize that by myself, I might not make much noise. but if I connect with others, then we can be heard. Yeah. So this is really what I do, is to build networks around Africa, but principally in my country of Kenya.
That's great. Thank you so much, Pat. And we have Azzuddin, our IFAW CEO and President. Azzuddin Downs, would you like to give us a word?
Sure. Assalamu alaikum. Oftentimes people that don't know Arabic think Azzuddin is a woman's name, so I'm often addressed as a woman. The International Fund for Animal Welfare, we work in 40 countries around the world, and you're going to hear from one of our leaders who's on our board. The organization in total is made up 80% of women. And that includes all of the leadership positions and the board of directors. So what we're going to be talking about today, I hope, is some of the ways that we've included women in our conservation work in more meaningful ways. And I'm really pleased to be here. And Dr. Sheikha and I, the last time I was here, we were thinking of this idea of, it's not just not the number of women who are involved. If you look at what's happening in the UAE with the leadership of women in conservation, it's really extraordinary. And the thing that I repeat everywhere I go is that we need to break the misconceptions of what happens even in the region. Where men's voices are, where women's voices are. And that's what we always try to promote, to find ways to ensure that women are in leadership positions and that, in fact, they're listened to meaningfully. So that's what I'm looking forward to, getting questions and having a great conversation about.
Us too. I think we will have many of these questions now. This is what the whole session is going to be about. Before we start the session, we have a video from Her Excellency Maryam Said Harib al-Muhairi, the Minister of Climate Change and Environment. It's a pre-recorded video, so we will watch now. Maybe give it a minute.
I'm so sorry I couldn't be with you physically, but I'm so delighted to address you today because women's involvement in solving pressing issues facing the world is a topic I'm truly passionate about. I would like to thank the International Fund for Animal Welfare for organizing this important event that celebrates the significant contributions of women to wildlife conservation. Renowned international female conservationists such as Jane Goodall and Diane Fossey have inspired several generations of girls worldwide to care for the environment. But we don't have to go far from home to see the examples of outstanding women in conservation. A key role in this space belongs to Emirati women, some of whom are here today. Last year, I was proud to see Her Excellency Razan Khalifa Al Mubarak being elected president of the International Union for Conservation of Nature. She became only the second woman to head the organization in its 72-year history and its first president from West Asia. The election was a testament to her impressive achievements in wildlife conservation as the managing director of the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi and the Mohammed bin Zayed Species Conservation Fund, which she also founded. The Environment Agency Abu Dhabi also has other prominent female conservationists on its staff. Its Secretary General, Her Excellency Dr. Sheikha Salim Al-Dhahri, is the first Emirati woman to earn a doctorate in wildlife conservation and protection. Having started as a research assistant at the agency, she rose through the ranks to the very top. Thanks to her dedicated work, we now have in-depth understanding of the state of biodiversity in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi and a clear vision for its environmental sustainability. Meanwhile, Maytha Mohammed Al-Hamli, Manager for Marine Assessment and Conservation at the agency, has notched up significant accomplishments in the protection of marine species. At the helm of Emirates Nature WWF is yet another inspiring woman, Director General Leila Mustafa Abdellatif, who was instrumental in launching the Environment Endowment Fund that offers opportunities for the private sector to support environmental programs. And I mustn't forget my own team at the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment, which is known for strong women's representation. Hiba Shihi, Director of the Biodiversity Department, and Muna Shamsi, Head of CITES, who are doing great work in wildlife conservation. The continued success of women in the UAE is a natural outcome of the pioneering approach of our wise leadership to empowering women and building their capabilities. It's also a proof of the immense potential of our women, their strong desire to develop themselves, and their dedication to the pursuit of excellence. It's clear that there's no shortage of role models in wildlife conservation, and it's up to us to ensure this trend continues well into the future. We must work together to unlock women's potential through education and training and create opportunities for them to realize their ambitions in this field. Today, you will hear all about the amazing work our distinguished speakers have done in bringing endangered species back from the brink of extinction. And I hope you enjoy the event. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Thank you so much to Her Excellency and her team for providing this great video with the great messages. We can start now with the session discussion. Dr. Sheikha, you are the Managing Director of the Environment Agency. Oh, I'm sorry. You are the Acting Director of Biodiversity Department at the Environment Agency of Abu Dhabi. Could you let us know more about how you reached this position? What were the challenges that you had to go through to really get to where you are today?
Thank you, Kinda. Actually, I joined the Environment Agency, I have to say, by coincidence. And what do I mean by coincidence? I was actually in 2000, was offered a job to join the health sector after graduating immediately from UAE University. And I was so excited, you know, I would be joining the health sector. And I got this call very early in the morning from a dear friend telling me to check out a new entity established in Abu Dhabi. At the time was called Iruda. And I was laughing at her, you know, telling her, why should I look for another opportunity when I'm, you know, having a job offer in hand? And she said, no, please, Sheikha, go and check it out. And because of respect to her as a dear friend and a mentor, I said, I will give it a shot. And I went to this building in Khaldiya Street. And I said, I want to meet someone from this agency called, at the time, Majid. And I walked in to his office thinking that he is the HR manager. And said to him, can you explain to me what it's all about and what would be my role? And he started explaining, and I got very curious and asked more and more and more. And I told him, okay, I'm really interested in joining this organization, but I have my own conditions. Said, if I'm leaving this office and you promised me to give me an opportunity as soon as possible because I have an offer in hand, and please don't check my CV. Tell me now, don't check my CV under your desk. And he said, no, I promise that I will get back to you soon. The second condition, I told him, if I get to be accepted in your organization, you will have to let me leave early at least 2 days a week because I was planning to pursue my MSc. And from day one, thanks to my friend, after a week, I got a job and I started going with my team to the field for the first time in 2000. And I always thought that I knew my country, I knew the environment, I knew the desert because I came from the desert. And believe me, it was different.
Yeah.
It was a new look, a new excitement journey. Every time we head to the desert, I see something new. I get to learn something new. So those was my early days at the Environment Agency, going to collect for the first time very well organized, scientifically based data for the Environment Agency to understand the biodiversity of Abu Dhabi. But the road wasn't rosy during that time, the early 2000s. Also, 2 years later, Razan have joined the organization, or 1 year, something like this. And the culture at the time was still closed around women working specifically in the field. And I could notice when I walk, except from Razan, where she was keep saying to me, "You are lucky. You are the only one who get to go to the field. You are lucky." I get the odd looks from the colleagues around me, and also from my own community, from the family, not from my parents, where they were telling me, "Why do you do this job? What does it mean?" It was underlooked. You collect, sorry to say, you collect waste, you try to clean the environment. This is how it's been looked, but also looked as a female going with a group of males. It was so odd. I resisted at the time, and I said, no, I will continue, because also I had some pressure internally for moving me from a field-based position to a desktop or office-based position. And I resisted. I said, no, if I have to learn it properly, then I need to be out there. And I started looking for solution. And one of my solution was suggesting to have a chaperone, a female chaperone, who can also contribute in collecting the data. And at the time, they recruited a lady. Her name is Ingrid Barcelo, Spanish. And we continued the journey together, forgetting what is happening around us, still going with our colleagues, males, to spend a couple of nights at the desert. And then I grew up. I grew up the ladder. And at a time, I decided, okay, I'm fulfilling my job from a field perspective, but also I need to equip myself with more knowledge. And that could only be through pursuing my PhD. And I decided to leave and to have a study leave in 2004. And I was granted the PhD, and after 4 years came back, and slowly I grew up the ladder with more confidence, but also seeing that more females have joined the Environment Agency, which some of them are here today with us.
It's very interesting that you found power within your other women colleagues and got them to work with you in the same field. It's really wonderful. Ms. Hiba, now you are the Acting Director of Biodiversity at the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. Could you let us know, we know that the UAE is always supportive of women. Could you tell us more about how the ministry is working on that in the field of conservation? How are they supporting women? What are the plans, maybe upcoming plans that support more?
Sure. I think one of the important things you could give a woman is education, as well as giving her the skills and the tools. And then you will see how determined she is and how she's going to prosper. And this is what the ministry have done. Like even for myself, I came in as an environmentalist. They have given me so much trainings and education, and even helped me finish my my master's degree as well. And in order to empower me to be able to at one day lead the team I am also leading. And I think and there's a lot of examples of women like this in the ministry, and this is what they have been doing. And I think thanks to other women like Dr. Sheikha and Her Excellency Razan as well, who have was determined to go out in the field. So when I joined, it was okay and to go out and learn as well. And once the ministry have given such an training and education to the women that join the ministry, they empower them and they give them the tools, and they also believe in them. So they do also send us, of course, at first with a mentor to negotiate in international conventions meetings. And after a while, they tell you, okay, now you can do it. You can negotiate on behalf of the government of the UAE. You can do it. And I see a lot of examples of negotiators and leaders in the ministry that now negotiate on behalf of the government of the UAE and such events as well. And I think also we were giving also the third thing that we were given is the opportunity. So I started as a biodiversity coordinator, and now I take care of the marine section, as well as I was given the opportunity to also lead the whole biodiversity team. So this is another thing the ministry is also giving us. And I think other than that as well, we were given the opportunity to join let's say to join or to help girls as well get their certificates, get a lot of recognitions. In 2018, I was recognized as the best woman leader in the federal government. In 2019, I was recognized as the best youth in the federal government of the UAE by Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid. So they also give us opportunities to be recognized for and appreciated for all the work that we are doing. So
This is great. It's one. It definitely starts like with the appreciation, as you mentioned, with knowledge and opportunity, and I think we're having more and more of that nowadays. Patricia, if you could, I know you have over 20 years of experience in the conservation field and you work very closely with communities. So maybe you could tell us a little more about how that changed over the years, how women's role changed and how they are, seen or observed.
Well, in the field, there are not very many women. I'm listening and learning a lot from these ladies about the machinery that's put in place to capacitate women. It's fantastic. I think from the perspective of the field, there isn't, and maybe there should be, that type of machinery that ensures that there is that capacity being built for women in the field. As she pointed out, it was always, especially conservation in the field, always seen as a role of men, not women. Yes, so I also got the strange looks, what are you thinking, when you are out in the field. But the interesting thing, I suppose, that's different from the perspective of field is that there are women who have decided to do something different. You earlier mentioned people like Jane Goodall and so on. In Kenya, we have a lady called Dr. Cynthia Moss, who over 40 years ago decided she was passionate about elephants and she wanted to learn more about these elephants. And as a result of what she's been able to learn, we know so much more about elephants. Now, this is a lady who's coming from New York, having no idea of what kind of experience she's going to have there, and finding herself in the middle of a bush with wild elephants, living in a small tent. So there are people like this who decided from a science standpoint they were very interested in doing something like this. Now, the local communities for a long time had only seen women or men in the role of conservation, and their roles in conservation was not being recognized. In fact, they were seen as the problem, not the solution.
Yeah.
And so, when you ring fence animals and say, all right, well, we are going to keep the animals here, and then we are going to keep the people here, then you fail to recognize the role of these people in ensuring that these animals were there from the very beginning. And when you take time then to sit down with women in the local communities, what they can tell you about the history of these animals, the role that these animals play. Many of the communities who live around wildlife are pastoral people. And judging on the behavior of animals, they can know it's going to rain soon or that it's going to be very dry. And as women, they need to go looking for water and looking for, so the water they can know. They watch this elephant going to a particular place, especially when it's very dry. Elephants can smell water at a great distance. So they dig it up. They can drink it up, they bring it up so the women don't have to go far to collect water. In Kenya, still the women are going great distances to look for water. It's not necessarily being brought piped directly into their homes, especially around protected areas. So I found myself interested to see the roles, the different roles that they play, and also their stories, and the possibility to learn so much more from the women, because of course there are many well-meaning people who come and say, now you people, this is what needs to happen in order to conserve this. They have no idea that these people already knew, or they didn't think about this. So when capacitating the women, it is transforming conservation, that people can say, yes, we have historically lived with conservation, colonization changed that dynamic, but now how can we change it back again so that women are, people are, because honestly, if you are able to ensure that the women know how, then everyone will be able to. This is the experience that I have had. In networking with other women, some have found that addressing issues of health, women's health, has been one of the things that has helped with conservation. And there are those who have decided, like, that I want to do something around wildlife. What can I do?
Yeah.
So some, like the pictures you see, have become rangers. They say,
Yes.
this is the role I can play because I know this bush like the back of my hand, and I want to have that opportunity. And this is something that has changed. When 20 years ago, you did not see women rangers.
Yeah.
No. Now you can see more. This is a tremendous advancement. It's IFAW has helped the creation of one of only 3 units of rangers in Africa, women rangers. This is, we hope, of course, people are inspired to see this and they can think about this as a career path. Oh, this is something I can do.
Yeah.
So it's always about, so as women growing up, what can I do in conservation? Is it science? So I can do research? Is it that I become a ranger so that I can really, practically speaking, take care of wildlife? Or will I go to work for the government so I can be able to inform policy? These are things that I find myself in the role of sometimes talking to people so that they get more ideas about this and mentoring more women. Because, having seen and had the experience of being in wildlife for a long time, you can see there is still so many opportunities. And I think truly, I don't think I discriminate against one against the other, but I think that the empathy that women have is much greater. And so the opportunity, this is why I believe that the most successful projects like that of Cynthia Moss, Jane Goodall, is because of the empathy that they have been that successful.
Yeah. It's very interesting that you say that, actually, because we were discussing the other day about how women are usually at a greater risk during disaster response because they're always risking their lives to protect their families and their communities. So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
As a dean to you now, we know that, I know very well as well, that diversity and equity is very important to IFAW. How is that translated in the field of conservation on ground?
You know, at IFAW, our brand is animals and people thriving together. And I noticed downstairs at the women's pavilion, I think it said, when women thrive, the world thrives.
Yes.
And what Pat was saying, the thing that I noticed in conservation on two levels, on the very international fora levels, when we go to CITES and we go to, whether it's CBD or others, the voices of the people who should be on the stage often were not. And that was usually the case that I've been blessed in my life to always have very strong female role models. I mean, Jane Goodall is a very good friend of mine. Judy Wahungu, who's, we'll hear from later, is a mentor. So personally, I never had this notion of, I'm a man, how could I work for women? I mean, to me, it seems very natural. But I brought up the point, with Pat and others. I said, it's just not right. This notion that women are not in leadership positions is not correct. There are extraordinary women around the world. And how is it that IFAW could help give a voice? On the other end of the spectrum is the women who live with wildlife, And there's actually, in many parts of the world, there's a lot of violence against women. And one of the things that was unexpected when we talk about how we can incorporate women into some of the work we do, like Team Lioness, their ability, not just physically and mentally to do it, because clearly they were able to do it, but culturally, that women would be able to defend themselves, defend their families, and as a result, help us to defend wildlife. And I always thought, all right, if I listen, I will learn something. And in many cases, we work in Malawi, we work in Kenya, Zimbabwe, Zambia. The stories that women told me were absolutely shocking, absolutely shocking. And I asked Mama Esther, Kenya, I said, but tell me, how has the IFAW project changed your life? And she said very polite things, thank you, and all the things that one should say. I said, no, but how has it changed your life personally? And she said, for the first time in my life, I feel as though I've stepped out of a shadow and that my voice was heard. And to me, whether or not immediately we saved more elephants or we brought on more rangers, that to me was just a fundamental shift, that in that moment she had a voice and she had a platform where, in a culture where the men led and women did not have a voice, suddenly had a voice in a way that was unexpected. And that's one of the things I'm very proud of at IFAW. And to step back, I said to Dr. Sheikh at the time when we talked, I said, I don't have to speak, I don't have to say anything. And she said, no, you can say what you want to say.
Some balance.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And speaking of Team Lioness, we have a short video that really showcases the work that they do. If we can have the Team Lioness video, please. Sorry, this is not the video. All right, this is it. Thank you.
My name's Artiriti Amleset Lakara. I'm a Urgululi Community Wildlife Ranger. I'm a Team Lioness, and I'm 24 years old. We are protecting wildlife and the community, but we are also risking our life. mothers from the community are very friendly to Team Lioness. We are gaining more information. About this job, I love it because I am. That will raise my living standard and my family's living standard.
Thank you. I think, Azadine, you were also talking the other day about financial stability through the projects that we work around the world, like how when we give them financial stability, we're empowering them.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think in the world of conservation, and Pat mentioned this, historically, I would say animals live inside a national park, people are outside, it's an animal organization. You really don't have anything to do with the people who live outside. And then we get to a point where there's a lot more focus on gender issues and inclusion, but I felt that there was a lot of tokenism, honestly. Oh, let's do a small project and the women can do something. But there was no real long-term strategy to look at how revenue can be generated sustainably over the long term, and part of it is, what you mentioned, is education. And so we have attracted financial underpinnings of different foundations who are not focused on conservation, they're focused on education. And my approach has always been that even if the money didn't come to IFAW as a donation, but that it was invested in the landscape for health issues, for girls' education in particular, and small business revenue that could provide sustainability. And so, part of the strategy at IFAW is to attract partners that are not necessarily in the conservation sphere, but coming outside. And as opposed to having a scattershot approach, is to say, well, why are there international organizations investing in education here, there, and everywhere? Why couldn't we put it all together where you lay on top of one another education, health, girls' education, and conservation? You would have a much greater impact. So that's what I'm always trying to look at, is changing the perception. And I have to say, it's as a Muslim, and having lived in the Middle East and having lived all around the world, there's such a cultural misconception of women and their role. And UAE, I mean, it's just extraordinary. It's extraordinary, the leadership. And I think that we have to find ways, as Pat said, you have to come to Kenya, you have to come to Malawi, you have to come to Zimbabwe, because so much of what we've done and tried to do, people who are in conservation come away saying, I had absolutely no idea. I'm absolutely shocked. The culture, I completely misconstrued. So, is that conservation per se? To me, that's the world we live in. The days of fortress conservation, the animals are inside and everyone else, including women, are outside, and they don't really matter to saving the lives of animals, but clearly they do.
Yeah. It's true. Dr. Sheikha, I know you as the Secretary General of the Environment Agency, how important do you think it is to have, as you sit on the table where decisions are made, how important do you think it is for women to have a seat at the table, to really promote other women and really the protection of wildlife?
It's very important.
Yeah.
And this is why I think myself, Heba, Her Excellency Mariam, Her Excellency Razan, made ourselves to be part of the table. One, if you look at the nature of any female, being a sister, being a mother, being a daughter, being an aunt, by nature, they are the ones who look after, they care, they protect, they challenge themselves. And I think this is why we need females around the table, whether it's conservation or health or politics, it doesn't matter. But we know deeply that, and I'm not discriminating here, please, but we know deeply that they will go beyond the borders to fight for something that have a better benefit for all, that have an ultimate goal beyond their circle. They look at the bigger picture. And at the Environment Agency, we believe in this. We always believed in it since my early days, although I went through struggles, but today, alhamdulillah, that's part of the past. We believe in women that they need to gradually mature, because with their maturity, the right decisions come on board. With their maturity also, and the right equipment of tools, of experiences, we know and we believe that they will do all the calculations before jumping into the conclusion and before jumping into any decisions. Their actions are well calculated. And many of us are risk takers.
Yes.
but we are risk takers based on calculations, not based on, I want this to happen because it's my preference from an emotion. And again, although many people see females as a bulk of emotions,
Yes, that's
but
true.
that bulk of emotion get to be separated when they are in action, based on the action itself. So yeah, I think it's very important. And for that, the Environment Agency today, I'm very proud to say 30% of the workforce are female.
Wow.
And also in very, very unique positions and unique specialties where we want female to be. Around this table in front of us, you see a marine specialist, you see a fisheries specialist, you see invertebrate specialists, and you see a plant specialist. And they are very young, but they have the right composition to grow up, to be part of the circle. And they are already part of the circle. Some of them already less than 2 years, and they have been taking bold decisions around bold cases. Fisheries is one of them. Noura have been put in the last 3 weeks, I would say, under the spot and challenged around the data that she brings on board. Not because we want to challenge Noura. It's because we want to build that capacity in her and to build the confidence in her. Later on, she doesn't need Sheikha and she doesn't need Razan to hold her hand. She will be walking alone. Most of them are doing their post-grad studies, either MSc or PhD, and that's part of our belief in supporting female in the Environment Agency in the right field, where we have already certain gaps to be filled. During my time, I think there was a shortage of females because of all the issues. But as I speak today, I'm getting more CVs than I can attend to recruit.
Yes, you have
And
mentioned
mostly
that.
from females. And because, again, females are built to be more resilient and taking heat, taking pressure, being there under any weather. But I cannot forget to say that when we go out or when we take a decision, we need the males next to us. when Noura gets her data and Zamzam get her data or Metha, they cannot go alone without the support of their colleagues.
Yes.
Because there is a certain role for the males to support the females. So we complement each other. So I don't want to take from my equation and my speech today the importance of the males that they play also in the conservation. There is lots of jobs that we cannot do by nature as well. Like lifting heavy stuff, riding a boat. I can't.
Yes.
I can learn it, but
Yes.
still I will have a certain or a level of reluctancy, especially if I come across a bad storm. And it can happen. When you work in nature, you should expect anything.
Yes.
You go, you check the weather, everything, and it's absolutely fine. Once you are in the middle of the nature, things get turned over.
It's definitely a thin
And
line.
this is why I believe there should be a balance between males and females being together and leading the conservation forward.
It's true. It's a very thin line usually, and it's very interesting that you mention about the imposition, how usually women are perceived as like this pack of emotions that we can't seem to control.
Believe me not.
Yes, but when we do manage or do understand how to manage that professionally, it really works to our favor, and I think it shows in most of the projects that we work on. Maybe Patricia, maybe you could tell us about how being a woman has helped you, do the work with the community. Do you think that you are perceived or, as differently because you're a woman? Has it helped you reach goals, more because they feel like they are closer to you in a sense, more emotional maybe?
So maybe all of those. Well, I think first of all, from the perspective of men, because of course they'll direct me to where the women are. If I go to a particular area, they will say, the men are seated under the tree. There's the government. They say the women are over there. You go and talk to the women. So then the women are curious because it's a little bit unusual to see an African woman, moving around the country, talking about things, who is not working for the government, for example, not a teacher, not a health officer, so yes, the curiosity is definitely helpful, that they, okay, so, who is this person? I think that certainly because of the curiosity, it has helped me to be able to do many things, to meet also many people, because usually I allow them first of all to ask me questions before I'm going to talk to them, because they're trying to understand, so who are you, and how did your father or your husband allow you to be doing these things, so I think it helps to open doors, certainly. But again, as I said, this is something quite new, that we reach the point of being able to talk to them. In the beginning, the recognizing of different roles, what women can do, even those who came to help with conservation, as Azadine said, some of them, they had token things they were going to do. Oh, the women are walking very many miles, let's put a well for them. Or let's build a school. The only problem was that if you are with pastoral people, these are people, it's like the desert people here, they move. So you could build a school here, but by the time it's finished,
they change.
Exactly, they have already moved, so a waste of money that they are doing this. So the interest that they have right now is how, what role can we play? And sometimes even just being able to hold up a mirror to them to understand how important they are in this whole equation. Today, for example, is the International Day for Forests.
Yeah.
Now, women will understand more the importance of trees because of especially these rural women who are living a very rudimentary life. The girls that you saw on the video, these are women from villages where they don't have running water, they don't, they don't have electricity, they walk considerable miles through the wildlife to get to school, some of them. So even just to see someone like me, a woman who seems to be, quote unquote, first being able to talk to them, this is something unique. And I think the experience of having this chance to see, to hear, I think, for example, these ladies, if they were to come and sit down and talk to them, they would be so inspired, because until you see other people that they have done this,
Yes.
that they are doing, that they have this great capacity, many women, though, are not encouraged to go into the field of conservation. It doesn't happen. You sort of somehow stumble into it by chance, not by design.
Yeah.
So
Like
here
Dr.
is an
Sheikha.
example. Yes, she was going to help, and then
You applied and that was
See?
it.
Yes. So, that now there are more who are, I'll give you an example. There's a young lady who, she decided to study environment. And because she had studied environment, when she graduated, she was told that she should approach me, because then I could tell her maybe what she could do. Well, I was a bit surprised about this, because I didn't know. Now I'm the person who will tell people
Yeah.
how, but you just never know when you talk to people what impact you have and what then they think. So she approached me, and so I said, okay, so maybe what we need to look into is planting some trees. Can you be able to mobilize some people? We can use this particular land. What I want you to do is, first of all, go and look at the land, see what kind of trees can be planted based on the type of soil,
Yeah.
and then tell me what needs to be done. Okay, so she went, she did this. After a few weeks, she was in touch with me again. She said, okay, these are the trees. Now, she didn't just tell me, she sent me a whole document. This is the acreage of this land. These are the type of trees, and she had put with the botanical names. These are the ones, and I think if we start with this number of trees in this particular area, then we'll be able to increase them. I said, fantastic. Now, were you able to find any women around there who may be able to support you? So she said, well, I tried to talk to some of the women, but they thought like I'm talking another language. So the language of conservation, how do you merge it into, so that people understand actually what they are doing is conservation?
Yeah.
If you're collecting water, a woman will think about, because she has to go far to collect it, she's going to think about how that water will be used. If she was going to use it for bathing, she will utilize it, when they're finished washing, she'll make sure it's going into something that she will be able now to use again, maybe to water the plants or something like that. So she's already thinking about conservation. She just didn't know that's the word, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
So in talking to sometimes the women, even in the rural women who are collecting wood, say, all right, if you keep collecting, if you cut down trees, then it means you have to go much further the next time, because then there are no more trees if you're not planting any trees. But if you are collecting, because usually they collect fallen wood, they need the wood for cooking, they need it also for building their houses, because In the pastoral communities, it is the women who build the houses, not the men. So how to think about this in terms of conservation? How will I survive with this in doing this? These are the conversations that we find ourselves having. And of course, they always want to know about stories. If you sit down and talk to them, where have they been? Where have they gone? Then I was interested to know about other women, because I know I'm not alone. There are other women who are doing things in conservation. What are they doing? I have a friend, Dr. Winnie, who we have done a lot of things with community. In fact, she spends a good amount of her time with the women and doing specialized projects. But we sat for a while on the board of a parastatal that takes care of conservation, and we would ask questions, but they were always very specific answers, managed answers. We would never really be getting actual information. So we said, well, the best thing, let's go out and see for ourselves.
Yeah.
Go and talk to people so you can understand what is happening in the field. What kind of challenges are even those, the rangers, what are they facing? You know, from the security point of view, because poaching is a serious problem. So are they addressing this? What about the management of these ecosystems? In Kenya, we are blessed with oceans as well as rivers, lakes, so we have mountains. So the conservation is very vast. You have a fantastic team of marine experts here whom I will be very keen to show this video to people there to see. This is something that we have to take seriously, because conservation is for Kenyans, indigenous Kenyans, is at a very early stage. You know, we have got experts, but they are enough so we can know them by name. That's not good. There should be many so that you can, and to build that up, you have to see that there's someone else. And for women, if they can see that there are other women who are doing this, then they know, oh yes, maybe then it's possible for you to do this. So these are some of the experiences.
It's really cool. I don't know what to say. I think really, like, when you build this network of supportive women who are willing to support each other, it's really sometimes it starts with a conversation, but it's the support system that you need, that you have set, so that you can do more.
I have to say, some of what I have heard today really relates also to us. The conversation and the talk, sharing the experience from woman to woman. It makes a big difference to attract more women into the field. And at a time, I have gone through this experience. Sorry, I
this is how it's supposed to be.
Yes, parents coming to me, and it was a big responsibility on my shoulder when some of the parents trying to approach me and saying, Dr. Sheikha, we would like to consult with you. Our daughter wants to get into the environmental field. Is that the right path? Is that the right career? It is for me, and it was. But to advise someone else, it's a big responsibility.
Definitely.
Although, you know, it's also a great news to have more people on board. And one of the tactics I used even well before becoming a Secretary General is saying to them, please bring your daughter for a summer internship.
Yes.
Let her try and experience her future job before deciding what major she wants to get into the university. And believe it or not many of them stayed. Some of them said, this job is not for me. One of them was my niece.
Oh, wow.
Yes, she thought this job is for her, and when she came on board during a summer, she decided that this is not her future career, and she went into the auditing field. Totally
different.
Wow, that's a big switch.
Yes.
Yeah. So validating also the interest through conversation, through talking and experiencing. She let her plant.
Yes.
Yeah? The experiencing is the big testimony for anyone to decide whether this is their future job or not.
Yes.
Because what we learn in the uni is not what you do in the
On
real
ground.
Definitely.
life of your own job.
Yes.
It's something else.
Yeah. Very true.
No.
I think Vasiva, you would maybe tell us more about, like, the system is already there. You have so many colleagues who are women around you, you know, who are supporting the women in conservation and the conservation field and protection of wildlife. Maybe you could tell us how that supported you in the process, having that system that's already there. Do you feel like it changed things for you? Does it?
Of course, definitely. I think when I joined, at some point, my manager was Her Excellency Miriam Harab, and she became a minister, and that's just an amazing inspiration. I worked with her. We went in the field diving, and she was such an inspiration for us. But I have also worked with very strong women with a great experience in the field. Let me give you an example. Muna Shamsi is sitting here. She has worked for 18 years in the field. Today, Muna is she gets calls from all over the UAE.
She have a tough job, I have to say.
Yes,
The
definitely.
world calls from around the world.
From around the world, yes, to ask her questions about how can we tell this is ivory, or how to deal with the shipment of rhino horns, or how to deal with falcons that have, how can we tell the ring is right. And she is the contact point, and I have learned so much from such a strong woman in such a you see a specific field. She goes and trains on a monthly basis. She goes to customs, and she goes to the police, and she goes to those mainly men dominated fields, and she trains them on how to do the actual part, a great part of their job. And it's I don't think it has been easy for the past 18 years, I believe. And I have also learned a lot from them. I have Hasina, who also have taught me a lot about genetic resources, and I think everything I know about genetic resources. But I think women help each other, and they encourage each other, and we are also competitors. So we also like to compete as well with not just with the men, but also with
Other
each
women.
other. And it's a good competition. We're not saying that it's a bad way of in fact, it has encouraged us as well.
Yes.
And we are also teachers.
Yes.
So when we see young women coming in, trainees, and others as well, we love to teach them. So all the knowledge that we have, we want to pass through generations. So we treat them also as families, and we love to also teach them about it. And I think it is also an important what Pat has said, the fact that women are more compassionate and more understanding. They have different way of thinking about it. And I remember, I think Muna, when she took me to see the first shipment of ivory coming in. The way she thinks is different than perhaps some of the men in the room were thinking. They were thinking, okay, how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to stop it and deal with it? How can we have more technologies to stop this, or to find also or detect more shipments?
Yes.
Muna and perhaps the women team and us, we were thinking, how can we stop it from the source? How can we stop it from coming in? When we saw ivories, we saw killed elephants, and that broke our hearts, and that we took that home. We couldn't perhaps sleep that night. We saw how many elephants were killed to get this ivory, and this is how different, because we are a bulk of emotions, that like Dr. Sheikh has said, and we imagine it, and we can't really live with it perhaps the same way perhaps men would do, which is why, and this is actually, I wouldn't say a talent, but it's a skill that we have that also empowers us to make better decisions
Yes.
and more strategic and futuristic decisions, I think.
Now, I know we're going to take questions, but I'm so glad you just said that, because internally, even at IFAW, I caused a lot of problems by insisting that everyone say, I don't care about ivory, I care about elephants. I care about elephants, and every single one of those tusks represent an elephant that was killed, who have families. So yeah, it's still a struggle. It's still a struggle, that point that you made.
Yeah, it's true. Well, now we are ready for the question answers from the audience. If we have a mic around, so if you have any questions, you can just raise your hand and we'll get the mic to you.
We accept only female
Yeah,
questions.
I said the first question.
It's a joke. It's not serious, just to...
Can I ask?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. I am Dr. Mohammed Nader, veterinarian, wildlife conservation, master degree in CITES Convention from Spain. Actually, I believe that we can't save our planet and animal species without support from the women. Title today is Women in Conservation. Let's get to work. So, Mr. Azzuddin, shall I suggest we need a global platform under this title, Women in Conservation, to share the experience from Kenya, from Middle East. Also, all partners should be inside this platform to share the experience and learn more about conservation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nader.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure that was a question, but
Yeah, it's a request.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
We are all
Yes.
yours.
Yeah.
Sorry, it is not a question, it is a comment.
Yeah.
First of all, I am supporting the ladies, as Your Highness said, that the man and the woman, they are completing each other.
Yes.
And the lady, they are, sorry, I forgot your name, as you see, I am old. So, as she said, encourage the ladies.
Yeah.
This is the most important thing for the conservation of the world in everything. I am a veterinarian. I worked about 15 years, 50 years, in United Arab Emirates and in other countries. What I like here, the ladies, they are good workers, especially when they are running around with their animals and camels. You know this better than me. And the man, he's sitting at home most of the time. So I think if we can, or if you can, not me, if you can hold some meetings or organizations in the villages or in the Shabiyat to the ladies to teach them about something and to take care more about the animal, because they really don't know too much things and they are suffering very bad from this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do we have any other questions? No questions. Maybe we can elaborate more on that point specifically about women in the workforce. How you don't really have to be in the workforce to be able to support conservation. As you also mentioned, Patricia, that sometimes, with conservation is kind of embedded in us. We know how to conserve it because we know we're resourceful. I think as women, we are not going to be biased here, but a little more resourceful. So maybe we can talk more about how the UAE really supports that. Is it just through internships, you think, or is it only through a job that supports conservation? Can women join the force, or are there other ways?
No, actually, at least for the Environment Agency, we have different platforms for different age groups and for different genders. Although we don't, try to separate the genders, but probably based on the gender group. Ambassadors program, where we take on board people from the community, different ages, males and females, and try to equip them, educate them, and also teach them around the challenges and how can they contribute back around their circle. The majlises is a good idea.
Yes.
It's an excellent idea, and we have been using it even well before the COVID. Since 2018, we have been capitalizing on the community majlises, where we introduce specific challenge and we again try to raise awareness, educate, but also request the community to support and how they can contribute. It was well used during the fisheries change of management. And I would like to talk about it specifically because it was first time used in the community majlis, but also because today we see the results. We see those results through not only the Environment Agency, but also through the community themselves. The fisheries story and its depletion and overfishing problems were very sensitive.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to take away a benefit from the fishermen, which they have, been practicing for many years. And to take it away and slowly, we had to use the community majlis. We went in every majlis, in every region, not telling them that we will take this benefit, but addressing the problem first, raising their information around the crisis that we have in Abu Dhabi, that we have depleted our natural resources of fisheries, and why, and how they can help. And we kept going in this roadshow of meetings until we felt that the information have leveled up to the level where we can now announce that there will be a ban in certain gears. When we released the ban, there were little resistant, really few, minor, although this community is very strong, politically strong.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it was almost accepted with a few resistant here and there. And again, we kept capitalizing in the communication with the same language, not the scientific language, not the regulatory language, but the language that our fishermen understand and the numbers that they can absorb. What we have been hearing, luckily, alhamdulillah, the decision was rightly made as per our calculation, and the stock has increased from 8% to 62%.
Wow, that's a great
less
increase.
than 4 years. Now, the community is talking, not us, not the Environment Agency. They are talking to each other and also to the leadership, saying that since the ban has happened, they have seen a recovery in the fisheries. They have seen a better catch, a better quality, a better price, so it became their talk, not the Environment Agency talk. So yes, I agree with the gentleman. We should use the community channels, whether it's a majlis here in UAE, but I'm sure there is different platforms in other countries to become more closer. And there is other platforms through the Education Council, where we have included the environmental aspects, challenges, and solution as part of the curriculum of all grades. There is a lot of activities that EAD also participate in. especially the exhibitions, where we
Yes.
found a niche, a good niche for the Environment Agency to send out a message.
Yeah, we
for
know
the
that you were
community.
also planting trees, the mangroves. It's a
Yes,
great project.
yes.
Very, very exciting. Well, this is really a great discussion. I should ask again if anybody has any questions. Oh, we have one question. Two.
Thank you for this invitation. Dr. Iz, your name Iz is for men, don't worry.
أيوة،
There's
صح.
another one, Azza, it's for women. Dr. Sheikha, we are very happy to meet you today, and
Thank you. Pleasure.
you have a lot of information because you graduated from United Arab Emirates University. It was amazing university, or exactly in biology. My question is about what the future project in UAE depend to the 15 years. We are reaching to 15 years of the union. What about the new project depend in the same field?
For the upcoming era for the Environment Agency, considering that the Environment Agency sits on a wealth, a big wealth of data, not only for the last 20 or 25 years, but also going forward, we will continue through our team to collect the data. So what we see as a future is utilizing the artificial intelligence, utilizing satellites, better technologies, innovations to cut down on the hard work that the team is going through from a field perspective, from data analysis. So yes, want to cut on the, I don't want to call it wasted time. There is no wasted time, but the scientists will understand what I'm talking about. They take really great deal of time to come up with a single report. How we can cut down on the time, but how also they can come up with multiple reporting and multiple aspects. I think this is the future. The future is the big data, and the big data is already available. Raising the accuracy, cutting on the time, more accurate analysis and more accurate prediction. We don't want to land on the problem. We want to see and visualize the problem before it happens and take the action. Inshallah, they are always. Thank you.
I can give you an example, even though I'm not representing the UAE, but I'll give you an example of a project that we're going to do, and maybe we'll take a moment to do it now. And my colleague Vivek Menon here, who is the founder and the CEO of the Wildlife Trust of India, with whom we work. And we have a surprise to recognize 3 talented young Emirati women. So Vivek, maybe you could come up and we'll present to these talented people.
Maybe we can get you a mic, Vivek. Do you need that?
You have a loud voice, mashallah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege to be here, wearing my hat of senior advisor to IFAW, and welcoming 3 young veterinarians from the Emirates. Dr. Walima, would you like to please step up? And Dr. Meera. Now it is a surprise.
It's your day.
And when you open it, you'll find out what it is, and I'll tell you just now what this is for. And Dr. Meera. Would you like to
Yeah.
come up?
Yeah, come up.
Yeah.
I just want to say very quickly, to the point that you were bringing up at the beginning of your own career and going into the field. So these 3 young women are going to have an internship in India, working at the rescue center in Assam, in the north of India. And so whilst they may have the qualifications, it's not the same thing as going into the field and living and working with wild animals. And believe me, having been there myself many, many times, you will see things that you never could imagine. So I just want to help send you off onto an amazing adventure for the next year.
Thank you.
I really want to welcome all of you to a country which gave one of the first women prime ministers to this world.
That's right.
Okay, Indira Gandhi, 1970s. In 1976, the person who led the Stockholm movement on environment, which is what now has led to all that we're talking about. It was a woman back in the 70s. So welcome to India. I hope you have a wonderful intern.
Take one more.
Sorry?
Take one more.
Take one more. You want
I'm
to
a
go?
doctor as well.
You are always welcome.
Thank you.
An IUCN council meeting in the forest.
So that's just a great example. It's just a great example of trying to create opportunities that I hope...
Use it well, ladies.
Yes, congratulations. We had one more question, and then we'll move to a recorded video.
Thank you. My name is Mahdi. I'm here with IFAW. Just question to Dr. Sheikha. And, me, myself, I started as a field researcher back in 1996, and I was trained by women. We had the team leaders were women from Italy, from Spain, from America, and we were trained. And there were some sort of difficult situation, being from our culture and then being under women in the field, which was kind of challenging at the beginning, but inspiring. So I would like just to know what was really your inspiration to be in the field and start as research in the environment field and nature. And just to save time, the second question quickly, probably to the group. We know in conservation, usually we try to involve and engage women in a lot of projects, and because they are a vulnerable group, also the youth. But women mainly, as you mentioned, probably in different remote areas, they do the main work. And that's why in conservation efforts, we try to engage them in alternative and livelihood projects and all of that. Now, one of the issues was that the men would use this and take advantage of the women work within these projects and take the money from them, basically. To go either married more or, buy different things and all of these things. Do we have examples how this can be addressed or was addressed? Let's say if there was any kind of program specifically directed for men to engage them somehow, or how to strengthen the position of women, especially in remote area and certain societies, women are weak somehow under the men. So would love really to hear if there are any examples or how this was addressed. Thank you.
Okay, I will address your first question. My inspiration. It's very simple because I was young and everybody said around me that female cannot do this job. So that was my main drive. I saw the resistance around me. And I only saw the support of my parents, believing in what I'm trying to pursue. So accept my parents and accept for a few people in the organization, everybody rejected me being in this field. Everybody rejected me going and camping in the desert where we had no nearby hotels or for 2 nights and 3 nights, roaming around with a group of males to collect data. So that was my main drive, to prove to myself to prove to the community and to make my parents proud because they believed. So it's another message that I can bring change and I can prove everybody that they are wrong. And every job is made for everyone if they have the passion, if they have the willingness, if they have the commitment, and if they have the aspiration, the ultimate goal where they want to be. So I had all of these. I'm a challenger by nature. I cannot accept. I cannot put my sword down.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't at a time where I was forced to stay in an office. And probably if I accepted, maybe I wouldn't have been here today. And maybe also we wouldn't have seen more UAE females coming on board. So it's not because of me. No, I don't want to take the credit because of many people, including herself, Her Excellency Razan, who we fought back trying to create a new niche outside the exclusive female jobs circles, which is at the time were either becoming a teacher or becoming a bank, somehow maybe, or at the time there was a new era of ladies banking. So either a teacher or a banker and a female exclusive branch. So this is my main drive. The second question, thinking while you were talking, I don't think and I believe we don't have this issue. Because first of all, our late Sheikh Zayed have given an equitable opportunity for both males and females from the beginning, from the day we were born, to our parents, starting with after the union, and also throughout our life. As much as I would get an education and health opportunity and so on, my brother, my husband, my whoever would get the same opportunity. So I think it depends on us as people and as personalities on how we chose to decide in specific situation to become more powerful and try to take off, or no, to accept that, you know, females and males have the same opportunities. At work, and I'm sure the ministry is the same, everyone have the same opportunity. How much you are eager to take that opportunity and to work towards that opportunity. Is that your own responsibility? So in a nutshell, I don't see it here. Probably in other, in other regions, there might be. But also given that in our country, there has been a lot of strong policies and strong regulations that assures that there is equitable opportunities and equitable treatments to female at the social side and at work side and the family side and multiple, And you saw our ministerial cabinet, third of it is female.
Yeah.
It's a big testimony. The first youth minister, she is a female. It's a big testimony. And I can assure you it's the same at the family level. I remember my father giving me the same opportunity that he gave my brothers. I have been given the support to pursue my education and to choose the field that I believed in. And he took the role as a father to guide me as much he guided my brothers. So
And I
never saw it as.
Yeah, I think, Your Excellency, if I can add to what you're saying, and no offense, but I don't think women, when they were given the opportunity, they thought about, okay, how about the men's feelings? They took that opportunity and they started prospering. We didn't think about, I think, other things. It was prospering, and I think this is why in some communities men saw this as something threatening and tried to contain the woman. Usually, as women, we see the opportunity. We don't try and compete or give away, but we try and prosper as not just as a woman, but also for the whole family. So when we prospered, I think even the men, the way they thought about it, they started changing, and we see now. I don't know if you agree, Dr. Sheikha, we see now young men thinking also about women rights outside of the UAE, and how can they help and how can they support, and it has been through also
بالعربي in Arabic we say a quote وراء كل رجل عظيم امرأة صح؟
Yes.
Behind every successful man there is a great lady or a great woman. But I would say in UAE also it's the opposite.
Yes.
وراء كل امرأة ناجحة رجل عظيم. إن كان هذا الرجل هو أب أو زوج أو أخ. And I have to say it from my own experience. Again, I wouldn't have been here without the support of my father, who is a male. The support, and then that journey was continued since I got married. Zoji, my husband, continued the journey of my father. He could have stopped me from pursuing. He could have stopped me from continuing my field work, but also he believed and he supported and empowered me. And this is why both of us are successful in our field. And they are two different fields.
So maybe I have a little different perspective. I think you know that. I think UAE is very advanced. This is what I can say with women's rights and the initiative of women. And yes, we still have the situation where, if a woman is earning money, the man could potentially take it. And I think the comment that Azadin made, it was a very important one, where when he spoke to Mama Esther and she said, for the first time, we can come out of the shadows. These are women who had, for the first time, the opportunity to own a cow.
Yes.
They had never imagined they could own anything. They say, I came from my father's house to my husband's house without anything.
Yeah.
And if for any reason my husband chases me away, I will leave again with nothing. So this is a generation, 2 generations perhaps before you, because we are trying to get there, but we are a young country, and so this is why it's for me quite inspirational to see here how advanced, because I think even in the Middle East, UAE is quite advanced compared to others. And so, to answer your question about how this changes, again, I think it's about, the role of women, because I think the reason why women can be successful is because they understand, because of the role they have had to play. Man is here, woman is here. If she wants something, she understands, what do I need to do? I need now money for this. My husband is not in a good mood today. What do I need to do? She knows what she will need to do in order to achieve what she wants. And I think this is one of the reasons why slowly you're seeing then the change. In many of the rural communities, especially those ones who are living with wildlife, most of them, the men, they don't have enough money. They don't have the resources to educate all their children. So automatically they will educate the boys before they will educate the girls. Because the role of the men, women if as a woman I decide to do nothing, it would be understood,
Yes.
culturally speaking.
Yes.
But a man to do nothing, this will not be understood, because he has to be, it's expected that he must do, accomplish things. He must do many things. So, a father who has now all these children, maybe he has 3 daughters and 1 son. First and foremost, he has to make sure he has the resources to educate his son, because he thinks, well, I'll be able to organize marriages for my daughters. So they'll go from my house to the husband's house and they'll be taken care of.
Yes.
But in the role that they find themselves, of course, this is changing slowly, and education matters. And also how you grow up matters. I too had a father who was, he encouraged us a lot. And my grandfather, who was born, of course, before, when Kenya was still a colony, he did something quite revolutionary. He had 17 children, and he chose to educate all his children.
Wow.
Both the girls and the boys. Unheard of. That you would educate girls and boys. This was unheard of. And there were many people who said to him, this is not a good thing. But because he was a man of the church, and he, he said, I can see the future, that there's going to be change in the future. And if I don't make sure that all my children have the skills to survive, then this will be a challenge. Now, I think that, okay, where people have the resources, they're educating, of course, both the boys and the girls. And of course, this is now what changes.
Yeah.
But understanding that it can change, and that it can get to this point where men will support their daughters, their wives. This is an important conversation to be heard by many. And I think there's a gentleman here who asked about that, building a network and maybe having a conference where you can have these conversations.
Yes.
I think it's tremendously important, because, I have benefited from hearing this, just me. So I go home and tell others, what did I hear? What did I learn? What did I experience? And that I saw with my eyes people who are actually working in these fields, and that they are supported. They are not considered breaking the rules.
Yes.
Because otherwise that's how it's seen. The first time when I went into the field, they thought, gosh, do your parents know about this? And yes, they do. They support me. But, that was the, and so really it's okay for women to do this. This is our reality, but it is changing, and that it can change, where men don't have to feel challenged by the change. This is also important. And I think the continuous having of conversation, and I believe the conversation about conservation
Yes.
is how we are going to be able to drive
Go
that
forward.
agenda, so that it's about then livelihoods.
Yes.
Because if the man is also generating income, he doesn't have to all the time be thinking about what his wife using. Because where I come from, they have a saying, if a woman is earning money, that money she will be spending in the household.
Yes.
We may not know what the man is spending his
Yeah.
money on, but the woman's money will be spent in the household. So where the possibility to, where women can be empowered to do more with this, and empowerment is a key. I heard you talking about that, with empowering the fishing communities with the information. This is the key, because when there is that level of empowerment, when people can see, but they almost have to see, because sometimes if you just talk about it and you can say, oh yes, this,
Yes.
They don't know, and some of them, they're just polite, they just, and they will not, do or make any change.
Yes.
But by seeing and by listening and by having people who come and listen to them and to hear their reality, and you say, oh, so maybe what you're doing, you're already doing this. Maybe we can just make some small change, and this will help you to earn a living, or that it will help you to survive well with the species, whether it is that with the terrestrial animals, whether it is with the marine species, so that there is support, mutual support, because otherwise it can be perceived that, well, we need economic gain, so we have no time to think about conservation. We only can think about economic gain, that actually the two can be complementary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you allow me, sometime, because we are talking a lot about the empowerment of women. The empowerment of women is a great, but sometimes we as women overuse the empowerment.
Yes.
And we cannot differentiate between when it's a good empowerment practice and when it's a bad and we need to stop.
Yeah.
So my advice for the young generation, considering that, you know, I'm now getting old and I have experience to share, even here in UAE, we shouldn't abuse this new drive of empowerment. Your empowerment is good at your work as a scientist, as a professional, as a nurse, as Secretary General. But you are, in the end, as I said earlier, either you are a mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter, or whatever. You need also to fill that role. So in my example, when I go home, I take off my abaya of Secretary General. I'm no longer the leader. I'm a wife. And this is where we need to differentiate the empowerment. This is where we, as females, we can use multiple styles of empowerment. As a mother, I have an empowerment role. As a Secretary General, I have an empowerment role as a corporate. But, you know, trying to really switch off. And I think, I don't want to generalize it, but I have seen it. There is women who carry the empowerment, the corporate empowerment, back into their social life. And this is what creates the conflict between male and female, whether it's a brother, a husband, a father.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know that while we were organizing this event, we were also thinking about the target audience, and it's not, we were thinking, is it women that we want to target or is it men? And we realized that we really want both, because we want to empower women and we also want to educate men or include them in the conversation. And most of the time they are excluded from conversations about the empowerment of women, because we think that it's all about just women, so they don't need to be there. Our time has almost come to an end, but before we do, we have a recorded video from Her Excellency Professor Judy Wakangu.
There is a question.
Sorry. Oh, okay. Maybe we'll take one quick question.
الله بالخير.
Hello.
مسعود الحبوبي من مدينة العين. اسمحوا لي أنا بتكلم شوي بالعربي. اليوم يصادف يوم الأم، والأم هي الحياة، وهي أغلى ما نملك في هذه الدنيا اللي هي الأم. وبشكل عام المرأة دورها فعال خاص في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، وشيوخنا وقيادتنا ما شاء الله عليهم عندهم الدراية الكافية. فمثل ما تشوفون ما شاء الله عليكم، والله أنكم ترفعون الرأس. وأنا جدا استريت وجدا سعيد اني انا متواجد معاكم هنا واسمع هذا الطرح الجميل. اول شيء دور المرأة في الحفاظ على الحياة الفطرية. في برامج التعلم في المدارس او في الجامعات، هذا بيفيدنا وبيفيد عيالنا وبيفيد بناتنا، وبالعكس هذا الشيء بيرفع رؤوسنا. الشيء الثاني، انا شاعر وهيضتني بس بيتين في الام الحين وانا جالس. قلت الام عالم ما له هي نهايه، فيه الامان وراحه القلب والروح. الام مستقبل وعالم بدايه تشفي عنا كل مجروح. وسلام عليكم.
صح. لسانك.
Thank you so much.
فتح لسانك.
Thank you. So we'll go back to the video. We have a video from Her Excellency Professor Judy Wakangu. She's also IFAW's board member. She is a woman of great achievements. You'll be able to tell now from the video.
My name is Professor Judy Wahungu, and I am Kenya's ambassador to France, Portugal, the Vatican, Monaco, and Serbia. I am also an International Fund for Animal Welfare board member, and I am delighted to join you today at the Women's Pavilion. I have had the distinction of being Kenya's first woman environment minister, and I've also been able to change the legislation in Kenya due to my role and the courage I had as a woman serving on the executive. In 2014, I legislated the Kenya Wildlife Conservation and Management Act 2014. I also had the distinction in 2016 of enacting the Climate Change Act 2016 of Kenya. Again, I'm very proud to say, as a woman, and particularly at this Women's Pavilion, that this was one of the first countries in the world to have a Climate Change Act. Dear participants, I'm just not showing off. I'm trying to show you that when we believe in women's leadership, that we are going to come with distinct results that are going to improve our biodiversity and are also going to improve our livelihoods. When you are a woman in a male-dominated field, you're going to face many challenges. There is no question about that. But let me encourage you to just be tough and to continue with your aspirations. You will face discrimination. There's no question about it. I faced discrimination as a woman because I used to be the only one. But as I mentioned before, I found help. I faced discrimination as a woman, but also for most parts of my career, I faced discrimination in terms of racism. But I always sought help, and I was always open to what was happening to me. It's very important now, when we are trying to diversify this field of STEM and conservation, that we open up and share our experiences with our families, with our colleagues, and with our friends. This is extremely important. Have a tough skin, have a thick stomach, but also when it gets very hard, find that support group where you can emote, and then brush yourself up and continue the following day. It's not going to be easy, but at the end, it is extremely rewarding. Go with your passion. Believe in yourself. Seek assistance and mentors, and you will succeed. We are here for you. I thank you.
Well, the session has come to an end. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those who are also online watching us, thank you for being here. And to our speakers, thank you so much for the great discussion. It's really wonderful just shedding light on the women in conservation and really using this platform to shed light on women around the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.